Welcome to Grammar, y'all. Thanks for visiting. If you want some chill and purposeful grammar knowledge, make sure you subscribe. In this video, we're going to explore the real definitions of grammar, usage, and mechanics. Brace yourself. This video might change what you thought you always knew. But don't worry, we will walk through these concepts together. Let's start with grammar. And to explore the real linguistic definition of grammar, we're gonna look at a sentence. To she, y'all, grammar on loves YouTube the Learn To channel? Huh? What? What's that you say? This isn't a sentence? You are absolutely right. No English speaker is ever going to say this. And you know why? It's because this sentence is not grammatical. Okay, let's pause here for some clarity. Grammar actually has a bit of a different definition than what you've been taught. No worries, we're still going to refer to everything on this channel as grammar. I'm not going to change the name of the channel to usage, y'all. But what good is a grammar channel if I don't let you know what grammar really is? So I'm telling you grammar isn't what you always thought it was. Well, what is it then? The definition of grammar is pretty basic. A description of language structure. Whatever language you grew up with, you have an inner map of that language in your brain, an innate understanding of how that language works. Because of these innate understandings, this is why we know that this sentence isn't grammatical. We know that it makes way more sense like this, because this is grammatical. The language you grew up with, the structure and the patterns of that language are hardwired into your brain. Even before babies are born, they're differentiating the rhythms of their mother's language. By 18 months of age, children have already identified predictable patterns. That is, they're picking up the grammar of their first language and have begun to use them regularly. In English, these patterns include subject-verb, verb-object, and noun modifier. So this is one of those weird but true things. Grammar is about understanding, not correctness. Ugh! But if it's not about correctness, we gotta have something that is about correctness about, right? We gotta have correct. Now that we know that grammar is about understandability and not correctness, where do we go from here? Don't worry, there is a term for what we consider correct in language. And I use those air quotes very purposefully, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. But when considering language through a linguistic lens, the term grammar isn't the one that tells us what is correct. That term is usage. Here's the definition of usage that Darren and I gave in our book, Grammar to Get Things Done. Usage can be understood as the arbitrary rules of language that have been deemed correct by mainstream groups. That word correct, my little air quotes earlier, it's important in there because the idea of what's correct can change across time, place, and need. Let's look at a couple of quick examples here of these changing usage rules. For our first example, we can look at the double negative. Back in the day, English used the double negative all the time until about the 1700s. Here's Chaucer using it. And here's Shakespeare using it. And really, y'all, we see the double negative used all the time in certain places, and we don't think twice about it. For example, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to red pen the Rolling Stones lyrics here. I can't get no satisfaction. Another more modern example of changing usage rules is the use of who versus whom. I mean, how many people can recite the rules for the use of who versus whom? Sure, there are some phrases that are frozen where people use whom, such as to whom it may concern, but most people aren't going to say, to whom does this book belong? Rather, they're going to say, who's this book belong to? And if you want to say something about how that sentence ends in a preposition, that's a changing rule too. But we'll get into more of those types of rules in other videos. Here, I just want to emphasize that usage rules change, and that's okay, because people's needs change. So of course, the language that people use will change with those needs. What does this little rant about changing usage rules mean? Well, here's a perfect way to put it. The point here is that usage rules are arbitrary, dictated and elaborated in the college textbooks and the innumerable style guides on bookstore shelves. People are quick to ascribe a moral dimension to language use. Your use of incorrect or bad grammar must indicate something deficient in your upbringing, in your culture, in your soul. But these judgments and the rules they arise from rest upon shaky ground. Today's acceptable usage is tomorrow's faux pas. So remember, y'all, what we call grammar is actually usage, and those rules are not entombed in a shrine to the holy perfection of grammar. No, our idea of what is correct changes across time, place, and need. Always has been that way, always will be. Okay, on to our last concept in this video, mechanics. It's pretty easy. Basically, mechanics refers to the rules of writing, spelling, capitalization, punctuation. Sometimes people group mechanics and usage together because, like usage, the idea of what is correct mechanics changes across time and place too. Think about the different spellings between standardized American English and standardized British English. The important difference between usage and mechanics is that mechanics is bound to writing, which is kind of awesome because no one can judge your mechanics when you're speaking. When I first started teaching so many years ago, veteran teachers shared their rubrics with me, and I saw the acronym GUM on those rubrics. At the time, I had no idea what GUM stood for, but now you'll know what GUM refers to on those rubrics: grammar, usage, and mechanics. Thanks so much for joining me today. Y'all take care of yourselves. Another more modern example of changing, my hair's in my face, hold on, got eye hair, okay, is usage. Here's the definition. To she, y'all, grammar on Love's YouTube, the Learn To channel. We gotta have correct.